Welcome back, everyone. This episode is going to extend what I talked about in the last episode, where we dived into why it is so common that ADHDers can start up side hustles, side gigs, businesses like nothing, buy all the supplies, make the plan, but have issues following through. One of the big keys to success, particularly early success with ADHDers and side hustles, I've found, is picking the right one. So in this episode, we are really going to dive into what it means to pick an ADHD friendly side hustle, what makes a side hustle ADHD friendly, and talk about a few examples, predominantly with me sharing my story of the side hustle that was the first one I stuck with and that is still going strong 7+ years later, and that I literally worked on today before filming this podcast. For those of you just joining in because a friend or family member shared this podcast with you, welcome and thank you for giving me some of your listening time today. My name is Shane G. I am an ADHD money coach, and my goal is to help ADHDers have a better relationship with money, with finance. Many of them today consider it stressful, but I believe we have all of the skills to earn extra money and then manage our money in a way where instead of it being stressful, it is empowering to give us the lives that we want and wish to have. Now, I have gone through many iterations of side hustles. I at one point had a OneNote, different tabs for different side hustles, and then within certain side hustles, 3 or 4 different ways to monetize that side hustle. And by monetize, I simply mean, what was my pricing strategy going to be? How was I actually going to make money? Most of those never went anywhere. I actually had an LLC that I created early on in my 20s, created the full LLC, was going to do some like web design, other work for small businesses and whatever, fully created the LLC. You just file a little paperwork, pay a little money. And up until recently in Pennsylvania, there was no requirement for an annual report. So that LLC stayed active for a long time, never did anything, never made any money. And then when I actually went to shut it down, realized that shutting down an LLC is a heck of a lot harder than starting one. Finally, recently got it shut down. But that's a typical type of story for us ADHDers. And so if that's happened to you, again, nothing wrong with you. This is normal. But hearing that only comforts you to a certain point. What most of us are actually looking for is, how do we get past that? How do we actually get a side hustle starting, and how do we actually stick with it? So one of the first things that I think is important in this discussion, not all side hustles are an ideal first side hustle for an ADHDer. Not all side hustles, just like not all jobs, are ever going to be ideal for an ADHDer. Now, listen to me very clearly. An ADHDer can do anything a neurotypical person can. However, it may require a lot more work. But when it comes to your first side hustle, the important thing is proving to yourself that you can do it. And then secondly, learning how you do it. I can tell you what worked for me. You could go and interview 10,000, 20,000 ADHDers that have long-running side hustles and get every single tip. But that still doesn't tell you what's going to work for you. And that's what the first one that you actually stick with is going to do. So for that first one, picking the right side hustle is actually what's critically important. I've worked with several ADHDers that come to me when they are already losing attention to their side hustle, and they're looking for some magic wand that's going to let them stick with it. And I don't want to say that there isn't tips, there isn't tricks. There is people that are able to re-engage. There absolutely is. But a lot of times, if you are already hitting that point that you're disengaging, there are fundamental issues with the side hustle, and it's just not ADHD friendly enough for your first go. So one of the biggest things that I think you need to focus on with your first one, your first side hustle, It needs to give you wins and progress quickly, frequently, and early, which I guess quickly and early are the same, but quickly and frequently. What I mean by that is a side hustle that takes 3 months to get ready, not a good first side hustle for an ADHDer. Not, because you've got 3 months of you doing all the planning, buying all the stuff, which is dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, and it's all novel, it's all exciting, right? The problem is you do all of that exciting stuff and then you actually launch, and it takes time to get customers. It takes time to get a sale. It takes time to get money. So the dopamine hits don't come in. And now you've gone from a dopamine high and fallen right off the dopamine cliff. For more information on dopamine cliff, check out my last episode. The way that you avoid a dopamine cliff is if the side hustle has wins early. So what I mean by that is, and this kind of, there's like two pieces to this. There's quick early wins with visible progress, and then there's low friction to start, right? And these go hand in hand, because the lower the barrier to you getting started, the less tasks you have to do to be in business and working, the lower time to when wins can occur. The side hustle that I started, that I've still been doing 7+ years, is room hosting on Airbnb. I know the first minute I say Airbnb, a number of you jump to, well, I'm not some millionaire that has a second house. That's why I say room hosting first before I say Airbnb, because you are hosting space you already have. So what that means is, when I started on Airbnb, it was one of those ADHD nights I couldn't sleep. So I got out of bed, I went over to my office, I was on the sofa in my office, typing away on the computer. I cannot for the life of me tell you how I ended up on Airbnb's website. I most likely was reading some type of business article that talked about Airbnb, either in performance of their business terms, or someone saying it's a way they made money. And then I ended up on their site and I'm reading about the requirements to become a host. And I'm looking at my office and I'm like, okay, I do use this, but mostly during the day. And I can always work from the kitchen counter if someone's staying here. Maybe I can Airbnb this out. So I start sitting there thinking about, well, what materials would I need? What supplies would I need? Again, my brain's getting excited. This is new. This is novel. This is exciting. The dopamines are flowing. What would I need? But I did not let this become a shopping moment. I did not let this become a binge shopping moment, because I said, what is the minimum things I need to get this going? And the answer came back with an air mattress. There was nothing to sleep on unless I just listed it as a sofa, which, by the way, sofas and air mattresses are totally listable on Airbnb. Now, I want to address one little thing here. And again, just to be clear, this episode is not for me to sell you on any particular side hustle. I am not being paid by Airbnb. You're not going to see any links on here telling you to go start as an Airbnb side hustle. I'm simply sharing my experience and why it was ADHD friendly for me, so that as I talk about these things that make a side hustle ADHD friendly, you can relate it to a real world example. Okay. So I want to be very clear on that. What is ADHD friendly for me may not be for you, because of your living arrangement, what resources are available to you, or because of your personality, right? Again, ADHD and personality become one. You would not be who you are without your ADHD. Would you be better? Would you be worse? Nobody knows. But what we do know is you would not be who you are. So those are intertwined. And that's why ADHD does become very personal with some grand trends. So getting back to, out of my tangent there a little bit, I was listing out what I needed: an air mattress. And if you're thinking, oh, I would never pay to stay on an air mattress, well, you don't have to, right? Whenever you start a business or a side hustle, you have a target customer. You may not be your target customer, and that's perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. You have plenty of people that run very successful businesses that would not actually be a target customer for their business, right? Fairly certain Victoria's Secret has had male CEOs, not a target customer for the business. So brains coming back around. There we go. I ordered the air mattress off of Amazon, and I didn't go fancy. I didn't go deep. I didn't let this turn into a 30-minute hour-long research into the best air mattress ever. I typed in air mattresses. The first one looked like it was about as thick as my desk, like half an inch, quarter inch thick. I'm sure it was a little thicker than that, but that's how I look in the photos. I'm like, yeah, no, I need something a little more than that. So I found the first air mattress that lifted you off the ground. I think it was about 2-3 feet high or so, something around there. And I put that and a pump in my cart and hit buy. So 2-day shipping. I knew it was going to be there in 2 days. I then started working on my listing, what it would say, what would be in it. And I'm like, okay, let's make this listing. So this is another quick tip I'll let you in on here. When you're an ADHDer starting a side hustle, starting a business, there is a lot of tasks, regardless of which one you pick, which is another reason why low friction is important, because we want to take the number of tasks, reduce as much as possible. We also want to not reinvent the wheel. Our brains are very good at identifying problems and wanting to solve them. You don't have to solve a grand problem to make money. Look at the number of businesses out there that started and do something really simple and make a crap ton of money. Heck, look at, say, in the fast food industry, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A was not one of the early fast food restaurants. Chick-fil-A does not have one of the most comprehensive menus. And to a certain extent, you might not face value suspect a restaurant like Chick-fil-A, only focused on chicken, when America, to a large extent, loves its beef, would do well. But it does. And if you think about Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A really does one thing and it does it very well. Chicken. And again, not an endorsement of Chick-fil-A in any which way, but had it yesterday, so it's top of mind. So you don't have to solve some grand world problem. You can be doing the same thing someone else does, but it's going to be slightly different. And on Airbnb, you can have other private room hosts nearby. You could even have a neighbor. Yours is going to be different because of the amenities you offer, because of the room setup you have, because of the host you are, okay? So did all of that, started making my listing. And what I did to avoid the listing, there's a lot of different boxes to fill out. So it's 10 or 15 tasks right there, but there's subtasks under each item, like, things nearby. Well, I need to look up the distance for all these things in the area and think of what things are in the area that would be of interest to someone visiting, which is not the perspective I usually look through the perspective or lens that I look at my city through, right? So what I said was, well, wait a minute, there's other hosts. Let me go look at other hosts in my city, typed it in, and when it comes to like the things to do in the area box, that's going to be pretty much the same for most of the listings, unless they're like one of them is closer to the river and has private access to it or something like that. So I went and looked at what other people had. I took things from this listing, that listing, boom. There's my what to do in the area section in 5 minutes instead of me sitting there thinking about it for 30 and my mind having the ability to go all over the place, right? So ADHDers, don't invent the wheel when you don't have to, particularly when we're talking about your first side gig so you can get that win in and get it to stick, right? So mattress arrives, I set it up, I put sheets on it. We already had extra sheets. We already had some extra towels I could put out. So I put that together. I took the photos. I launched the listing. When I launched it, I anticipated that I might get 3-4, people a month, a little bit of extra money, but maybe this is just a way to get to socialize, some cultural exchange, those kind of things. I think it was within 24 or 48 hours that my first booking came in. And again, this was an air mattress that could hold up to 2 people in my office. It was very clear that that's what it was. And I think I was charging $25. So for some of you that have been there thinking, why would anyone book that? Well, if you're doing a cross-country road trip or you're going north to south on the East Coast and passing through, and you're going to arrive at 11 o'clock at night and be back on the road again at 8 in the morning, and you just need somewhere to put your head for 7 hours, $25 plus taxes and the Airbnb fees would probably come to 35, 40 tops, can be pretty appealing. So I started bringing in more business than I expected. But this goes back to the quick wins we were talking about. Private room hosting on Airbnb is great because you not only can get quick wins, but you can get frequent wins. So when someone books, I get the notification and boom, that's exciting. That's a win. Dopamine hit, right? The person checks in. The day of check-in is when Airbnb sends the money. In most cases, I won't get into all those details, but in most cases. So boom, that's another win. Now it takes a day or two to hit my account, but Ally Bank's really good about it. So day or two later, boom, the money hits my account. That's another win. But a lot of times, boom, the booking feels like a win. Them checking in, boom, because I know money's on the way is a win. Them checking out and the money hitting my account. Again, most of my guests stay 1 to 2 nights. So around when they check out, money's hitting my account. Boom, that's a win. And then usually other bookings are coming in. So the wins keep coming. Now, depending on where you live and things, you might have larger spacing, but let's say you're even getting one guest a week, one guest every 2 weeks. That means your business is giving you boom, boom, a double win with each, because you get a win when they book, win when you get the money. That's a double win each week. And it's going to space out a little because of the timing of the money flowing into your account. So Airbnb was perfect in that regard, and is part of the reason I've been able to stick with it, because it's continuous wins. And then over time, I've made changes to let me bring my price up more. So eventually, I put a bed in that room. My price went up. And again, you continue to do things, but in order for you to get to the point that you're increasing your revenue, that you're starting to think about pricing strategy, what amenities you can do to make it bring in more money and be more profitable, you have to stick with it first. And so we've talked about 2 ways to do that so far, and that's quick wins with visible progress and low friction to start. Airbnb private room hosting had very low friction, took me 2 days just to wait for shipping of an air mattress. But let's get to the third item. Flexible and forgiving. We know as ADHDers, our energy levels are roller coaster wide. Don't know why I just made that sound for roller coaster, but we're just going to roll right on through with it. Up and down, up and down. So you need the flexibility to control what's happening. Now, Airbnb probably isn't perfect in this area. Like if we were rating this on a 1 to 5, it's probably a 4, because you get to control when people can book. So you can control which days of the weeks they can stay, which days of the weeks they can check in versus stay over. So if you have a schedule that you know Mondays are a low energy day, and so are Thursdays, you could make it so that you don't have anyone staying Monday or Thursday. Or maybe you're okay with someone staying those days, but having to clean and flip the room on those days would be a challenge. You can set it so that people have to check in on Sundays, or people have to check in, like they can't check in on a Monday or a Wednesday. And that way you never have to really clean on those days, right? You have that level of control. So it's a lot of it. However, once you accept a reservation, you are locked in. So if you accept a reservation and then suddenly hit a low energy window, you are a bit stuck there. But otherwise, it's pretty flexible and forgiving in the sense that I don't have to take bookings when I don't want. And I can set breaks between guests. So I can say I need a 1-day break between guests, or a 2-day break, whatever you want, so that you can control that. So it does give you great ability to control your energy levels, control your focus, and really get it to bend with you, right? And this flexible and forgiving is the same reason, as a quick aside, that ADHDers are not always great at standard corporate job environments or standard job environments in general. It's hard for them in a lot of cases to give us this flexibility, but with side hustles, we can get it. So the fourth one here is aligned with your interests. And these are in the order of importance, I would say. So first is quick and visible wins. Second is low friction to start. Third, flexible and forgiving. And now fourth, aligned with your interests or values. So it is important that you at least have a level of interest in it. So full disclosure, I have been an Airbnb host for over 7 years. I actually think I'm going on 9, but I know it's over 7. So to give you an honest answer, I'm sticking with 7 plus. I've only ever stayed in an Airbnb once. I didn't book it. Someone else did. Now, I've stayed in Verbos, which is really the same thing. So I guess you could say 3 times. But when I travel personally, I kind of like the hotel experience. I was in consulting for a period of my career. I like the posh and amenities of a hotel, getting the points, all of that, checking out various hotels, the types of locations they have. I do. In most cases, I'm staying in a hotel. But where this aligns with my interests is I'm very interested in travel. I love travel. I think travel is very important. I think travel gives you a lot of culture, a lot of things in life. And, I think it's great. And yes, I did just drop my fidget pen. So excuse me 1 second. Again, us ADHDers like to fidget. It helps us focus on the task at hand. So you give me grace, I'll give you grace. But getting back to it. So when we say aligned with your interest, I want to be very, very clear here that turning a hobby into a side hustle can work. It also can be a disaster because you took something that used to be an outlet, that used to be a escape, and you've turned it into work. You've turned it into something that feels like a commitment. So it really depends, right? On what you're looking for, on your type of personality, on whether this hobby is like a tier 3 hobby for you or like your main hobby, whether you actually would enjoy doing it for money and having it feel like a commitment or a job in any way. So think through that. But Airbnb is of interest to me because traveling, I'm very social as well. So it works out on those fronts. Quick note, if you are not social, you don't have to socialize with the people. You're giving them a place to stay. You can make it, there's actually a spot on the listing to make it clear what you prefer. So again, not selling you on Airbnb, private room hosting in either way, just painting a clear picture of what this side hustle can and cannot accommodate. The final one is that it plays to your strengths. And this is where it becomes a personality thing. And this is where a side hustle could be perfect for your friend with ADHD, but not you, because you have different strengths, right? ADHD is a superpower, but it does manifest with different abilities, different strengths in different ADHDers. So the side hustle that's perfect for me may not be perfect for you. I'm sure there's people out there that every single thing that I have said about Airbnb private room hosting sounds like the most horrible and awful thing they'd ever have to do. And that plays into two things. One, their personality, which really has nothing to do with ADHD. It's just who they are, what they're interested in. And two, their strengths. They may have different strengths. Be a lot more introverted to the point that even the notion of having someone else in their house feels really uncomfortable, right? But in wrapping this all up, 5 key things that help you find a side gig that is ADHD friendly. Quick wins with visible progress, low friction to start, flexible and forgiving, align with your interests or values, and plays to your strengths. All 5 of these things that I touch on in my ADHD side hustle kit. My ADHD side hustle kit is a kit that I put together after a TikTok video I made got viewed by now over 43,000 people. And I talked about the fact that ADHD brains are great at letting us buy all the supplies or fully plan out side hustles, but not as great getting us to actually start and stick with them. If you want a little bit more help, this is a freely available guide, at least at the time of releasing this. I've debated in the future of possibly expanding it and charging for it, but get it now while it's free by going to shaneg.coach/kit. The link will also be in the description of this video, but go ahead and check that out. All you have to do is put in your email address to get access to it. You'll then get an email which shares with you the link to access the kit. The kit is interactive. It's broken down into 3 modules, each with 3 to 5 lessons. Lessons take 5 to 8 minutes. So I know it feels a little bit like, an online class or something, but it really is easy to digest. You can do it all at once and it's not going to take you too long, or you can break it down individually, whatever works for your personality, your ADHD style, and your schedule. I'm also working on adding in a way to get a downloadable copy. I do recommend the online copy because you can type right into it and there is some interactive pieces. One of the things I'm super excited with is the section that has over 30 ADHD-friendly side hustles, and each one of them is actually scored based on how ADHD-friendly, how ADHD Friendly the side hustle is. And it's scored on easy to start, fun and rewarding, and flexible and forgiving. So 3 out of the 5 things we just talked about, so that it can help you gauge, based on which of these is most important to you, which ADHD friendly side hustles work best for you. So highly encourage you to go ahead and check that out. And hopefully it's able to help you. The final thing I want to leave you with is an immediate next step. I'm going to hopefully assume that this episode really helped you narrow down in, combined with using the kit, on a side hustle that could work for you, that you want to go out and try to start. My next tip is setting goals that are small and grow them. So your initial goal isn't to start a side hustle and stick with it for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 7+ years like I've been doing. That's not the goal. The goal, once you identify the side hustle, is to get it started, right? And again, put in smaller goals if you need. To me, there's a goal and there's a bunch of tasks. We celebrate each task as a win. Your goal is to get it started, okay? Then your goal is for it to last a week. Then your goal is for it to last a month. So last a week, you hit a week, you go, okay, let me get to a month. You hit a month, okay, let me get to 2 months. You get to 2 months, okay, let me get to a full quarter, 3 months. Okay, let me get to 6 months. Slowly, the goal goes up. And each time it goes up, you need to check it off and you need to celebrate with a win. Whether that win is simply calling up and telling the friend who's supportive through all this, whether that win is treating yourself to your favorite restaurant, whether that win is letting yourself go buy something that you've had on one of your wish lists. Instead of impulsively buying it, you put it on a wish list. Give yourself a win. Give yourself that dopamine. Give yourself that celebration. And then we're going to slowly expand what the goal is. We're going to make it bigger, but slowly. So that's why we do a week, then a month, then something else to keep it going. And you don't have to just do time-based ones. I highly encourage you to do outcome-based ones. So my second guest. So like for me, my first goal was to get my room listed. My second goal was to get my first guest. My third goal was to get my first 5-star review, right? Those were my outcome-based goals. What let me keep doing it for so long was the outcome-based goals. I didn't actually have specific time-based goals, but I focused on outcome-based ones. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I really do encourage you, go take a look at the kit. It'll take you 2 minutes to take a look at it. If it's not useful, that's fine. But I do think most people will find something of use in it. Even if you've already gone down the pathway of having selected and starting a side hustle, the kit could be helpful in reframing how you think about your side hustle, how you set up some of your goals so that you can stick with it, even though it is a bit more focused on the starter part of it. That's why it's a side hustle starter kit. Thank you so much again for listening in. If you think this would be helpful to others, do me a huge favor, share it with your fellow ADHDers that it could help, so I can help them and we collectively can help each other be the successful entrepreneurs that I know we all have deep down inside of us.